The United Nations Special Rapporteur to Myanmar is calling for the International Criminal Court to take up the Rohingya crisis. She says Myanmar's military leadership is, in her words, unable and unwilling to conduct its own investigation into the brutal Rohingya crackdown, what the UN has already called a genocide. Myanmar has denied such accusations. The government even organized a media tour last month to show its progress, and our CBC News team was there. Nala Ayed, chief among them, and this week on The National, she's bringing us special coverage from that tour. Here's a preview.
As the acknowledged site of a massacre, the village of Indin seemed a peculiar place for a first stop. Burned are mostly the Muslim sections, the rest left intact. Not a single Rohingya Muslim resident is left. And they're probably not coming back, says the village administrator.
A scene that you'll see in more detail coming up, as I said, tonight on The National. But Nala is back from that assignment, and in her home post, the London Bureau this morning, with some time to tell us a little bit about it. Nala, so looking forward to the documentary this evening. I'm wondering, first of all, this most recent trip on this story, what struck you most this time?
There was a lot that was striking about this trip, Heather, but one of the most striking images that I probably will be hard to forget is these sticks sticking out of the ground, essentially. They looked like trees, coconut trees, but without the top part. And we had been told prior to this trip that that denotes essentially some of these villages, the many villages that were burned down in the violence last year, and that those trees, those topless trees, were basically the only evidence still standing that there was once a village there. So sometimes you would pass, crowds of these as we were driving along, and it would indicate that there was a village there. Also striking was just the extent of the damage and also the extent of the change of the landscape. So we passed a village, for example, that had at least 700 buildings, according to Human Rights Watch, that had been destroyed. But there's absolutely no evidence that there was a village there. The only reason we knew there was a village there is because we were looking at a mobile map app. Really, all you could see was tree stumps, and the growth of a year, essentially, of grass, and that is all. The other thing that was striking, Heather, is also just how adamant people were in this region that there had not been anything that looks like ethnic cleansing or genocide that happened in their midst.
And yet so many died, and as you've told us before, so many fled, some 700,000 fleeing to various refugee camps. On this particular assignment, I know that officials told you they were working hard to bring those people home, to repatriate them. Is that true? Is it actually happening?
I would say it's true, Heather, that was a major point that they seem to want to make on this trip. They went to great lengths to highlight their efforts to bring back Rohingya from mainly Bangladesh, that they have done a lot of building, including of a two reception centers, a transit camp that would accommodate 25,000 people, that they have a cash for work program designed to help people come and help rebuild their homes. And we were even introduced to a family who had walked over across 6 people, a father, mother, and 4 children, who had walked over from Bangladesh. But they were an exception, Heather, and this is according to the officials' own numbers, that only 171 people, at least as far as last week when we were still there, had actually taken up the offer to return to Myanmar. And on the Burmese side, they blame militants, the ARSA organization, and they blame Bangladesh. Bangladesh says that Myanmar isn't serious about taking people back, and the refugees themselves say it's not safe, and they're not coming back to any change in a very major lack of rights that they have there. No citizenship, no rights of movement, and limited rights to education. So that, they say, is the reason they haven't come back.
I'm curious also about Aung San Suu Kyi, singled out by the United Nations for not using her moral authority to stop the violence, as you know, and Canada most recently has stripped her of her honorary Canadian citizenship as a result. Are people there aware of situations, of facts like that, and the pressure that is on her internationally?
Well, it just so happened that the decision by Parliament to strip her of the honorary citizenship happened while we were actually visiting, and it was reported in the news. People were aware of it, so we had a chance to talk to people about it and talk to them about their leader both before and after the decision. One taxi driver, for example, told us that he felt sorry for her. He said she was being held hostage in this crisis, and generally speaking, there's the feeling there that international criticism has been unfair, that it has been unduly harsh, that it is done sort of in a black and white way without an understanding of the complex situation that she lives with and also that exists in Rakhine State where all of this happened. That she can't be seen to be taking sides in a country where people actually, many people, most people believe that Rohingya don't belong there despite the fact that they've been there for many generations. However, we did speak to some people who said that while they do acknowledge those challenges are real for Aung San Suu Kyi, it does not excuse her inaction.